Memorial Day weekend, as we as a nation honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedoms. Also honoring those who are still actively serving in our nation's armed forces. Here in the Laurel Highlands of western Pennsylvania, the Jennerstown Speedway Complex plays host to the Jennerstown Salutes 150.
To kick things off tonight, it is our ceremony of remembrance. Presenting the colors, it's the Air Force 911th Air Wing Honor Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the start-finish line for tonight's invocation. Racing with Jesus Ministries, Todd Heft.
Please stand. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that we have here. And Lord, in your word in John 15:13, it says, there is no greater love for one to lay down his life for another. And Lord, today, we remember those who laid down their lives for their friends, not only for their friends, but for this country. Those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Heavenly Father, I pray that you would bless and touch the families of those that we remember today, that you would comfort them, bring a peace about them that only you can bring. And Lord, I ask that you would watch over this race, that you would guide us, protect us, and lead us in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, continuing with our ceremony, please keep your attention to the start-finish line for the playing of God Bless America by Zoo P.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
And now for the playing of Amazing Grace, please welcome bagpiper Aaron Steubenport. And now for the playing of our national anthem, ladies and gentlemen, Zoo P. Ladies and gentlemen, during our ceremony of remembrance, please direct your attention to the sky. You will soon notice a Black Hawk flyover to commemorate this Memorial Day weekend. Hope you have enjoyed our ceremony of remembrance, our ceremony of honor here over the last few minutes. And it culminates as we ask you to direct your attention towards turn number 1. That's where you'll see the Black Hawk flyover. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been moved by the ceremony that we've seen over the last few minutes, and now it's time to show your appreciation for those that did not make it home, those we honor this weekend. Put your hands in the air, make some noise. If there's someone here that's on your heart, shout their name out, say their name, as we honor those who didn't make it here
Please direct
to see
your
this, but are
attention to
with
the
us
start
in
finish
spirit
area
this
in front of the
afternoon.
bleachers. As you enter the seating area of the Speedway, you may have noticed a table at the front, raised to call your attention to its purpose. It is reserved to honor our missing men and women. Let me explain. The empty places represent Americans who were or are missing from each of the services: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and civilians. This honor ceremony symbolizes that they are with us in spirit. Some here at the Speedway were very young when they went into combat. However, all Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call and served the cause of freedom in a special way. Now, I would like to explain the meaning of the items on this special table. The table is round to show our everlasting concern. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose reminds us of the lives of these Americans and the loved ones and friends who keep the faith, awaiting answers. The yellow ribbon symbolizes our continued uncertainty and hope for their return and determination to account for them. A slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured or missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return. The bound text is a book of faith to represent strength gained through devotion to sustain those lost from our country. The glass is inverted to symbolize their inability to share a toast. The chair is empty. They are missing.
Row 1 at the Jennerstown Speedway complex, directly behind the flag stand, is left empty. And here at the Jennerstown Salutes 150, that is honor row. These seats are left open in honor of those who are not with us today for this Memorial Day celebration, who have given the greatest sacrifice to allow us to gather here for the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Each of the drivers starting the Jennerstown Salutes 150 will be competing in honor of a fallen service member. At this time, we introduce to you the starting lineup for the second running of the Jennerstown Salutes 150, starting at the back of the field in position number 22. Racing in honor of Marine Lance Corporal Abram Howard, the driver of car number 78, Walt Sutcliffe. Racing in honor of Army Sergeant Patrick C. Hawkins, driving the 01 car, Melissa Fifield. Racing in honor of Sergeant Derek Shanfield, the driver of car number 26, Gary McDonald. Starting in 19th position, racing in honor of Air Force Major James Crew, James Pritchard, Jr. Starting in the 18th position, racing in honor of Army National Guard Sergeant First Class Brian Hoover, the driver of car number 5, Kyle Ebersole. Driving car number 29, starting from the 17th position, racing in honor of John Chapman from the United States Air Force, the driver is Spencer Davis. Starting in the 16th position, driving car number 54, racing in honor of Army National Guard Sergeant Rudy Flame, Tommy Catalano. Starting in 15th position, racing in honor of Marine Staff Sergeant Joseph P. Goodrich, the driver of car number 64, Austin Beers. Starting in position number 14, racing in honor of Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Robert Gilbertson, the defending champion of the Jennerstown Salutes 150, Justin Bonsignor. Position number 13, racing in honor of Army Specialist Michael Hook. The driver of car number 36 is Dave Sapienza. In position number 12, racing in honor of Chief Petty Officer Nicholas Check, driving car number 24, Andrew Kraus. In position number 11, racing in honor of Army National Guard Lieutenant Colonel Michael McLaughlin, in car number 77, Max McLaughlin. Starting from position number 10, racing in honor of Marine Lance Corporal Ryan Kovacek, driving car number 82, Craig Lutz. In position number 9, racing in honor of Staff Sergeant Glenn Stuyvesant, the driver of car number 3, Timmy Solomito. Starting from position number 8, racing in honor of Army National Guard Sergeant First Class Brent Adams, the driver of car number 7 is Mike Christopher Jr. In position number 7, racing in honor of Army National Guard Specialist Mark Melcher, driving car number 58, Eric Goodale. Launching from position number 6, racing in honor of Army National Guard Staff Sergeant David Varecka, driver of car number 34, J.B. Fortin. Starting in position number 5, racing in honor of Sergeant First Class Raymond Buchan. The driver of car number 22 is Kyle Bonsignor. In position number 4, racing in honor of Marine Lieutenant Commander Christopher Rabble. The driver of car number 79 is John McKennedy. In position number 3, racing in honor of Army National Guard Specialist Chad Edmondson. The driver of car number 16 is Ron Silk. Front row starters for the Jennerstown Salutes 150. In position number 2, racing in honor of Army National Guard Sergeant First Class Robert Fike. The driver of car number 07 is Patrick Emmerling. And starting from the pole position for the second running of the Jennerstown Salutes 150, racing in honor of Army Staff Sergeant Casey Howe, the driver of car number 32, Tyler Ripkema. And now let's take it trackside for the command we have all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us at the start-finish line, the family of Army Specialist Chad Edmondson, the Grand Marshals for the Jennerstown Salutes 150.
Drivers, start your engines!
The field of NASCAR Whelen Modifieds has roared to life for the second running of the Jennerstown Salutes 150. 150 laps of action for the Touring Series stars of NASCAR's most venerable division. Defending champion of this event, Justin Bonsignore, starting from the 14th position in his car number 51. Meanwhile, up front, Tyler Ripkema and Patrick Emmerling. Cars beginning to warm up, and soon they will form their positions 2 by 2 for a collection of parade laps to get started in this second annual event. Jennerstown Speedway has played host to NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour events dating back as far as 1987. And with 3 events completed in the last couple of seasons, Justin Bonsignore, who we mentioned as the defending champion, has 2 wins in those 3 events. And in 3 starts here at Jennerstown Speedway, Justin Bonsignore has not finished worse than 5th. The other winner here at the Jennerstown Speedway complex in recent times, Craig Lutz, the Miller Place, New York driver in car number 82, with perhaps a more impressive record than Justin Bonsignore, because in Lutz's 3 starts here, the driver of car number 82 has finished on the podium all 3 visits to Jennerstown Speedway. He rolls out from the 10th position tonight. Points leader for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Ron Silk, was the fastest qualifier early in the time trial session. He rolls off from 3rd position tonight. Drivers discussing early in the day after their practice sessions a brand new compound of Hoosier tire. This tire has not been on these cars at this racetrack. And last year they were aware, as they were leaving the Jennerstown Speedway, that there would be new Hoosier sneakers for 2022. And several of these drivers have had to throw the setup handbook out the window to set up for these brand new Hoosier racing slicks. We will bring you the starting lineup one more time as the cars are headed for the green. But joining me here trackside, Andy, you've been a part of the ceremonies all day long. This has been a moving day at the races, maybe more so than any other here on Memorial Day weekend.
This really puts it into perspective. This isn't about us. This is about us as a community coming together to honor and remember. And I don't know how you can't be moved during an event like that, whether it was the table ceremony, the driver introductions, and racing once again. Just showing that it is the most patriotic sport out there, really honoring our fallen this weekend. I think everybody in the audience, whether it's the Flow Racing audience or live and in person here, certainly moved by at least one of the stories. And for those who are here today, right now, getting ready to witness this in person, we saw the emotion. Now, many times, Mike, as race announcers, we will incite the crowd to stand up and say, get on your feet for your favorite driver. We saw everyone in this stadium stand up on their own during your introductions. They were that moved by what they saw here in just the last 10 minutes. It's simply amazing, and we're about to do it again when the Rolling Thunder come by for the first of 150 laps.
Starting lineup looks like this. 32, Tyler Ripkema, your pole sitter. Second, the 07 of Patrick Emmerling. Third, the 16 of Ron Silk, the points leader. Fourth, the 79 of John McKennedy. Fifth, the 22 of Kyle Bonsignor. Sixth, the 34 of J.B. Fortin.
Tonight, this is all about us coming together, ladies and gentlemen, on your feet. Find somebody that you have been cheering for all night. Find somebody new, a story that you've connected to. Drivers, we salute you! As the drivers salute the fallen, those who are missing, and on Memorial Day weekend, we come together to honor, we come together to remember, and for the next 150 laps, we come together to race.
Starting lineup, 32, Tyler Ripkema, and 07 Patrick Emmerling in row 1, 16 of Ron Silk, 79 car of John McKennedy in row 2, Kyle Bonsignor in the 22, 34 J.B. Fortin, 58 Eric Goodale, 7 Mike Christopher, 3 Timmy Solomito, 82 Craig Lutz, 77 Max McLaughlin, 24 Andrew Kraus, 36 Dave Sapienza, 51 Justin Bonsignor, and we are ready to launch the second annual Jennerstown Salutes 150. 150 laps of action commence, and up front, the 32 fastest qualifier Ripkema pulls out to a 2-car length advantage over the 07 of Emmerling, and behind Emmerling it's wheel to wheel all the way through this field. Lap number 1. It's your fastest qualifier, Ripkema, the leader. Emmerling, and then right behind him, Silk in the 16 car. And the 79 of McKennedy. McKennedy has been a winner here in Jennerstown in other forms of competition, seeking his first modified victory here. And he, by a wheel, secures the 3rd position, and in doing so, pulls up along the side of the 07 of Emmerling to challenge for 2nd. McKennedy passing the points leader Silk, and now wheel to wheel in turn number 3 with Emmerling, and takes away the 2nd spot at the scoring line by just a bumper. Up front, Tyler Ripkema, the Owego, New York resident. What about a 4-car length advantage over McKennedy? Heated action all the way through the field in the early stages of this 150-lap contest. Emmerling on the bottom in position number 3, trying to defend that spot from the outside lane advances of Silk, the points leader. Top 3 now single file. Battle for 4th. It's Silk, who is at the same time trying to pass the 07 of Emmerling, but hold off the 22 of Bonsignor. That being Kyle Bonsignor, the cousin of the 2-time Jennerstown winner Justin Bonsignor, who was mired back in 14th position when the green flag waved for this contest.
And we've seen Justin Bonsignor ride the outside on the way up to the front of the pack, the number 3 car too, with a different driver. 2nd week in a row, normally driven by Donnie Leah. Last week it was Jake Johnson. This week we have a different driver, and having a hard time getting up to speed. About mid-pack right now.
There we see the 3-car in the shot behind the 36 of Sapienza, but wheel to wheel we're watching the 07 of Emmerling and Kyle Bonsignor. Bonsignor has led many laps here at Jennerstown Speedway. He had a terrific run here back in 2020 in the 22 car. He is an owner driver of that machine. And look at J.B. Fortin in the 34 car. Just a moment ago, Emmerling was challenging the 22 of Kyle Bonsignor, but now as Emmerling fades by a couple of car lengths, J.B. Fortin in the 34 car takes a peek to the inside. Right there behind him, the 16 of Ron Silk, points leader on the tour, but yet to find victory lane is Silk in that silver number 16 car. Just behind them, the 7, Mike Christopher Jr., the famous Tommy Baldwin Racing entry. And Emmerling up to the top side. Look at this action, Andy.
J.B. Fortin really digging through the corners in car number 34, especially we'll watch him go into turn number 1 this next time. Goes to the low side, going down the front straightaway, but watch him enter turn number 1. Midway through the corner, he'll get that bite. Just can't seem to pull him off of turn number 2, though.
As we watch this heated action, lap number 10 is where we stand in the Jennerstown Salutes 150. And at the front of the pack, Ripkema and McKennedy, but the distance has closed. McKennedy now just about 2 car lengths off the rear bumper of Tyler Ripkema, the fastest qualifier. McKennedy didn't wow him in qualifying to the point that I thought he might, being a little bit more familiar with this track, racing here at Jennerstown in other divisions. But he is closing on the leader as we watch this heated action that includes the 22 of Kyle Bonsignor, the 34 of J.B. Fortin, the 16 of points leader Ronnie Silk, and to his outside is Emmerling, who continues to fall back here. Christopher in the 7NY is going to be taking another spot away from Emmerling. Emmerling was very quick in last year's Jennerstown Salutes 150, but had to make a pit stop for a flat tire early on.
Definitely some coming and go here in the first 20 laps of this race. You had Kyle Bonsignor, who looked like he was going to just shoot out and challenge for the lead, even up to about a half dozen laps ago, running solidly in the top three, now losing time on the outside. J.B. Fortin, on the other hand, car number 34, being patient but cautiously aggressive too. You saw him move up the inside. He's picked up a couple of spots and now leads that charge.
We're watching this action as the leaders have separated themselves just a little bit more. A little bit of lap traffic played into that as Ripkema continues to lead. This is the best action on the track as we see the Melissa Fifield 01 car going a lap down to this group. 34 of Fortin and the 16. These two drivers now pulling away just a bit from Kyle Bonsignor. When we talk about the Bonsignor racing plan, Kyle and Justin are cousins and roughly the same age, within about a year of one another. Often there are brothers side by side on the racetrack. In this case, cousins, and about the same age, as we mentioned. Nobody with a real experience advantage, but of course Justin with Modified Tour championships under his belt. And now look at this, more wheel-to-wheel action. Emmerling continues to slip as the 7NY machine. Diving to the inside, Tommy Baldwin Racing, who's had a couple of drivers behind the wheel of 7NY Modifieds this season. And there goes that machine, one more spot up.
It's one of those situations where you watch this at Lee USA Speedway last week and you see Doug Kobe do so well in that car. And then you get the call, Mike Christopher. Okay, you're driving it at Jennerstown this weekend. That's awesome, but anything less than a win almost looks like a tick off than what the team was able to accomplish the previous week.
And Christopher, no stranger to that machine. Here we have a battle for the lead. Working lap 19 to the outside, John McKennedy in the 79 machine. Wheel to wheel with Ripkema, the fastest qualifier of the day. Jennerstown Salutes 150 action heated at the front as they head into turn number 1. Ripkema holds the bottom. McKennedy up top in the 79 car, and Ripkema powers his way back to the front. A little bit of breathing space there, maybe not a full car length between their bumpers, but McKennedy with a great challenge and now backs it down, perhaps waiting for a later stage in this event or waiting for after pit stops. But nevertheless, the lead distance has diminished. At one point, Ripkema had 6-7 car lengths on McKennedy.
It looked for a second that he was just testing the waters of, okay, can my car do this on the outside? Not only can he close, it's shown here that it's a two-groove racetrack tonight, and McKennedy doing a great job on the outside. As you mentioned, a lot of success here in multiple divisions in Jennerstown. Now content to ride in the back. That's a smart race car driver, knowing that it's 150 laps with an untested tire compound. Knows that his car can push that button, but doesn't necessarily need to on lap 22.
No lap traffic in front of this duo. The field is rather tightly packed. There's no lap traffic in sight for a long time as we work lap number 23, I should say here. Ripkema out in front. Ripkema, a winner in the Race of Champions Tour many times over, and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. McKennedy in the 79, as you mentioned, Andy, bringing other types of cars to the Jennerstown Speedway in his career. Sprint cars, super modifieds, all sorts of things for that versatile driver. And now we're taking a look at the 24 machine. The Kraus car is now to the inside of the 07 of the Emmerling car. And right behind them, that orange 82 of Lutz. And when you look at Justin Bonsignor's statistics, oh, we got a spin. There's a car against the outside wall in turn number 2. Just as we were watching some great action there, believe that is the Catalano machine. As the red car heading down the back straightaway now, pulled away from the scene of a single car incident there in turn number 1, bringing out the caution for the first time here on lap 26.
Yes, indeed, it was car number 54, Tommy Catalano, who had a bit of a personal highlight for him here at the racetrack just last night.
Last night, the driver on your screen who has suffered a misfortune here early on, but certainly early enough to recover from this misfortune, had a very fortunate occurrence here on the asphalt at the Jennerstown Speedway complex. Last night, as the speedway was dark and the rigs were rolling in, Mr. Catalano popped the question. So now a fiance for the first time in his life. He will tag the tail of this field for a restart. We'll see if he makes a pit stop in case he thinks there's any damage or flat spotted tires. But congratulations on last night's accomplishment. And maybe after this restart, he can begin to climb to the front and put a real explanation point on a memorable weekend for his family.
Wouldn't that be something? And the reason why they chose this racetrack, from what I understand, was that this is where they first met. So this just wasn't a racetrack that they chose. It wasn't an impulsive thing. It was certainly planned out. And congratulations to the driver of car number 54 as we stay under yellow in the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Now, Mike, you called the race last year. Will we see anybody on pit road this early?
This early, I would think not. I was watching for Catalano to maybe head down pit road. Catalano fourth in the championship points battle right now for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. So you would think that he would be very concerned about this car finishing the race so that he can continue to remain in the top 5 of the point standings. But apparently not enough contact with the wall or any other car to concern him from that standpoint. But mid-race and late race, there will be pit stops. And fortunately, we have Jesse Punch on pit lane to cover the action that happens on pit lane. These drivers, including your race leader, I would expect to pit for tires. But again, the tires are the big question mark here in 2022. This is a brand new compound of Hoosier Racing Slick, and the drivers have never used this tire here at Jennerstown Speedway. The number 3 car that you spoke of earlier, the legendary Bowler machine. Solomito heading down pit lane. And it looks like maybe just a chassis adjustment. No new sneakers there. Austin Beers heading down pit lane. And now that the pit lane is open, yes, now we see Catalano heading to the attention of his crew, and as well the Eric Goodale machine on pit lane. So a little action early, kind of surprising me. A couple of chassis adjustments there, a couple of new sneakers. The 3 of Solomito now pulls back out. You mentioned his first ride with this team, and he told me he'd never driven a chassis quite like this one, so the practice laps were very valuable to the number 3 Bowler team.
And it's one thing to have practice laps and the time trials, but I still think, in the first 20 laps, he was shaking down the car, seeing what it was going to do around other vehicles. He did move to the outside a few times. I was keeping an eye on Old Blue, and both inside, outside, stayed about mid-pack, and came in, obviously just got the little adjustments. Let's see if that car can move forward from here.
When you say Old Blue, I love that phrasing because this is the most historic modified racing team on the tour. A list of drivers dating back to the 1960s that are legendary Hall of Famers that have sat behind the wheel of this machine. And now Timmy gets the call. As you mentioned, Donnie Leah not able to be with us here, and certainly has to be an honor to climb behind the wheel of a machine with such a storied history.
It's like the Batman of modifieds. Who gets to be Batman today?
We are on lap 30 as the pace truck gets ready to head down pit lane. 120 laps to go for the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Race leader Tyler Ripkema side by side with John McKennedy in the 79, and we are back up to full speed. J.B. Fortin in the 34 car making some moves early. He is beneath the number 16 of Silk. Silk, not only the current points leader, but the 2011 champion of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. And he will lose that spot to Fortin, who's now closing in on McKennedy. A strong run here for the 34 of Fortin. McKennedy was challenging for the lead under green flag laps not long ago, and now he's got to watch his rear view mirror after those two drivers were well out in front of all competitors. Now Fortin in the 34 puts a couple car lengths between himself and Silk, and he is making it a 3-car battle at the front, working lap 32.
Just a couple of green flag laps into this run, and interesting for number 3 as number 82 and 17 mix it up just a little bit. That allows drivers like Justin Bonsignor to move in too. I thought we had some trouble in turns 1 and 2. Doesn't look that no.
Boy, Lutz in the 82 car getting the best of that multi-car battle and contact. And remember, Lutz in the 82, 3 Jennerstown starts, 3 podium finishes, including a win for the driver of car number 82. So up front, top 3 are single file. We're watching these battles a little bit further back in the pack for top 10 positions as they enter the front straightaway. Right there, the 51. Justin Bonsignor, the defending champion of this event. He is trying to make his way up to challenge the 36 of Sapienza, but right now it's the 5 car.
And he's been in traffic all night. He hasn't had a chance to really run his groove yet. And Justin Bonsignor having a hard time getting to the front. He actually shakes off a couple of cars down. They get bunched up again going into turn number 1.
That's the lap machine there, the 78 car in your screen. But Emmerling in the 07 has been falling back. Sapienza in the 36 has now the 5 of Kyle Ebersol, a Pennsylvanian, one of 2 Pennsylvanians in this field here in central Pennsylvania. And the 5 machine doing a great job holding off several challengers, including the defending winner, Justin Bonsignor. Nearly making contact there with Sapienza is Ebersol. Ebersol has been to victory lane in several forms of modified competition. 58 car of Eric Goodale, we saw him on pit lane. They have made some outstanding adjustments as he is now closing in to pass the 51 of your defending race winner, Justin Bonsignor. Of course, the newer tires could make a difference. The chassis adjustment that he was able to make could be making a difference, but I didn't expect him to reach this position this quickly. So let's keep our eyes on Goodale after the pit stop, having a tremendous run here, looking for top 10 positions, and moves to the inside of Justin Bonsignor.
Well, Goodale, I think, understands track position. If we have some more caution flags towards the end of the race, he'll be up inside the top 5, top 7, and have a better shot at going for the win. Probably won't get a long run towards the end, so making good with what he can right now.
He might need an extra caution flag that the other drivers would not, because he should have to stop again in this 150-lap grind. But side by side with the defending race winner, and looking like he's going to take that spot away, and he will. Goodale, former winner of the Richie Evans Memorial 100, the unsanctioned modified special event that kicks off the annual campaign in New Smyrna Speedway during Florida Speed Weeks. He's a former champion in Speed Weeks as well, and now very quickly to the inside of Ebersol. Goodale passing the Pennsylvanian and closing in quickly.
Goodale is the only driver who can go all the way below the yellow line. He's doing it both in turns 1 and turn 3, and even getting a bite off the corner. That car is definitely hooked right now.
Spencer Davis, the Georgia driver, is the next victim of Pennsylvania's, will be the next victim of Pennsylvania's Kyle Ebersol, but he is losing ground quickly to Goodale. Goodale pulls away from the 29, pulls away from the 5. Goodale making all kinds of moves here as we work lap number 44 of the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Wheel-to-wheel action as Ebersol and the 71 of James Pritchard Jr. just in front of Catalano. Now, Catalano made a pit stop as well after the spin, but he's about 4 or 5 spots behind Goodale right now as they continue their climb.
Field getting strung out just a little bit. Ahead on your screen, though, the 7 of Mike Christopher Jr. goes down to the inside. He has Bonsignor right behind him, and they continue to roar towards the front, the 7 and the 22, as we keep our eyes on the battle further on back.
Watching this action with Emmerling and Goodale making those big moves up front. It's still the 32 of Ripkema with about a 3 or 4 car length advantage over John McKennedy. They are all alone now on the racetrack. No lap cars in front of them. And J.B. Fortin, after those great moves to come to 3rd spot, is way behind these 2 drivers as we see the 32 machine. At one point, it was a 3-car train there, but you see Fortin has lost numerous car lengths. McKennedy might just be content to keep Ripkema in his sights in this early stage of the event, lap 47 of 150.
It could be a number of different things. I mean, we had a very similar situation at Lee USA Speedway last week, where it was 175 laps as opposed to the 150, and definitely multiple pit strategies within that race. We didn't have a lot of riding around either, and I don't think we've seen that so far here tonight. We've had drivers who have tested out their equipment and then kind of backed off a little bit, but you'll see them get aggressive again within a few laps once they can kind of taste that next position.
To my eyes, McKennedy might be the only driver on the field biding his time, so to speak. Now, you've got to wonder about the 32 of Ripkema. He's had things pretty much his way this whole time as we work lap 50 now. 1/3 of the way through this event. Is Ripkema saving a little bit for the end? These two drivers might be the only ones with that strategy right now, as we saw Fortin storming up through the field. We see Goodale storming up through the field. Now, McKennedy has closed in just a little, but I'd hesitate to call this a battle. I think both of these drivers are happy because they are almost a straightaway ahead now of the 34 machine of Fortin in 3rd spot. Then behind him, the 7NY car. You see that interval now, and the 7NY just behind the 34 of Fortin. That is Mike Christopher Jr. Fortin all by himself as he makes his way down the straightaway now. Great early moves for the 34. Is he just content to ride in 3rd? We saw some strong moves early when he was in traffic. Maybe he sees the leaders too far away and just says, hey, I'm content here.
So, yeah, these drivers will all have to make pit stops. So we're at the point where, okay, we have what we have, and we're going to ride it out till we have to make pit stops. One driver I continue to be impressed with, though, is the 7NY of Mike Christopher. He made some bold moves. He's not letting the drivers in front of him, like J.P. Fortin, out of his sights just yet. But he's still well within the top 5 of lap times.
If there's anyone that you can guess might gain a lot from a pit stop, it would be Christopher, because he's with that veteran Tommy Baldwin Racing team. And Baldwin Racing has fielded teams at every level where pit stops are critical. So you can imagine that that team may have a pit stop expertise advantage over some of the others. Ripkema now putting the number 29 machine a lap down, and right with him, McKennedy. McKennedy not even trying to use the lap car to his advantage. I think McKennedy is very content where he is. He had an opportunity there to maybe try to use that car as a pick. Didn't do so. I think these two drivers are the only ones in this field very content to bide their time. And that lead interval has diminished just a bit.
Well, yeah, you say that, and I thought within the next 3 laps you're going to see something with John McKennedy and car number 79. He's riding the tire tracks, looks down to the inside, a cautiously aggressive move into turn number 3. Nothing happening right there, but he's locked in and right on the back bumper as they cross the start-finish line.
McKennedy competes in so many different forms of racing, including, as we mentioned, sprint cars where there's no such thing as biding your time. He's just as accustomed to racing 30 and 40 lap main events as he is these 150s, since he's been out on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour for several years. But the lead battle a little bit more interesting now. Even if they're biding their time, they are close together and in the same frame. So we're going to stay with this battle as they approach a lapped car once again. Let's see if McKennedy dials up a strategy for that.
They have a couple of lap cars ahead of them, so this is definitely uncharted territory in this race for these two drivers. We had a couple of caution flags and slowed before they got into the heavy lap traffic. Not sure if they'll go double file ahead, but McKennedy looks like he goes down to the inside, is content to ride there for the moment as they come up on the lap car.
And as you mentioned, several lap cars now, and lapped traffic going too wide. Well, not quite yet lap traffic, but the drivers at the back of the field going side by side. Ebersol in the 5. Not long ago, he was challenging for top 10 positions. So Ebersol fading quickly in this. Perhaps something wrong with that machine. Now we see the number 3. Remember, Solomito made a pit stop, so we know why he's at the back of the pack. First run for the Bowler team.
And Solomito didn't take tires on that stop either, so it's not like he had the benefit of fresh tires. And down 1 lap, there's something you don't see every day. That car won the pole last week, finished 5th with Jake Johnson as a rookie driver. So Old Blue having a little bit of a struggle here in the first half tonight.
Leaders making their way past Gary McDonald as well. And the next car to go a lap down is defending race winner Justin Bonsignor. Bonsignor qualified 14th fastest for this event. He has 2 wins at Jennerstown in 3 starts. He has never finished worse than 5th here. And the many-time champion of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour goes a lap down as Ripkema and McKennedy pass him on the front straight.
This is something I don't think anybody saw coming tonight. So your iconic modified cars going down a lap this early in the competition. We're not even halfway, and they're in a world of hurt with both the 3 and the 51.
The 51 car, Justin Bonsignor, I was talking to them after the practice session, and he said it's a new tire. And he was the first person to mention to me his concerns about this brand new tire compound, because in 3 races prior they were the team to beat, and it just shows you how much differently these cars can perform on a new compound of rubber at this racetrack. Now Emmerling in the 07, front row starter going a lap down.
And McKennedy, for the moment, continues to run in the tire tracks. Now about 3 car lengths off the back bumper of your leader as they enter turn number 3. And for the first time in about a half dozen laps, they have clear sailing ahead of them.
Emmerling in the 07 car started this event from the front row. Shocking to see him back at that position. His crew chief for this event, Jan Leedy, the modified legend who went to victory lane at Jennerstown Speedway in 1987 when the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour first visited this picturesque speedway. Lap 67 as Fifield goes another lap down. Ripkema in the 32, McKennedy in the 79. Ripkema looking for his first Jennerstown win, and look at this heated action. The 34 of Fortin, your third place car, distantly third place.
But he's been caught by Christopher in the 7.
Exactly. Christopher has used the lap traffic to his advantage, and the Tommy Baldwin Racing entry number 7 NY with the second generation up-and-coming driver Mike Christopher Jr. challenging Fortin on the outside. This will be a change of a podium position.
Here
Lap
comes Christopher.
69, and Christopher switches to the bottom lane. He challenged from the top, he challenged from the bottom, but the lap cars are too wide in front of them. Battle for third is a heated contest. Nerf bar to Nerf bar. And Christopher takes the spot.
Like a surgeon, down to the inside, rolled the dice on the lap car of number 71, and made the clean pass. He's now up inside the top 3 as they enter turn number 2.
Who would think such masterful use of lap traffic would come from a car with the yellow bumper rookie stripe? Mike Christopher, no stranger to modified racing, but newer to the modified tour, the NASCAR Whelen sanctioned competition. And he makes a move in lap traffic that was very impressive to find himself in a podium position on lap 71 as he moves around the 71 of James Pritchard Jr., the lap car. Excellent run so far for Mike Christopher Jr.
And the modifieds have the best of both worlds, too. They have the iconic number 3, the iconic number 7, your last names like Christopher and Bonsignor. But some of the younger talent that's coming through, again, Mike Christopher Jr. or Jake Johnson, who's not in this race, but was so impressive last week. A lot of the young drivers really making their mark in modifieds, and it really speaks to the health of this division.
And 2 drivers up front who are kind of in the middle. They're not the old guard and they're not the youngest. They are up front right now. The 32 of Ripkema feeling a little bit more pressure from McKennedy as we approach the halfway point of this event. How many of these drivers were waiting for exactly lap 75 in their minds to really push the go button? If McKennedy was one of those drivers, this will be his opportunity as we see the Ripkema car slide just a little bit. I wouldn't expect the leader to be the guy with overheated tires. Nonetheless, Ripkema a little bit looser handling than he was earlier.
Well, if I have John McKennedy behind me like I do, if I'm Ripkema, I'm inside, I'm outside, I'm doing everything I can to keep the lead. I want to set the pace, but it looks like the 79 is just a little bit faster than me right now.
McKennedy has had a couple of impressive runs in the modifieds here. He has not won at Jennerstown in this form of competition, and now he slides the car just a little, taking a peek to the outside that time in turns 3 and 4.
They are jostling those positions, and 4 lap cars ahead of them. Both get a little out of shape that time off of turn number 2.
Just past the midpoint of the 2nd annual Jennerstown Salutes 150. Moving around that number 26 machine, putting him another lap down. These race leaders are about to get another opportunity to duke it out in lap traffic. Exactly what McKennedy wants, not what Ripkema wants to see. And while these drivers approach the lap traffic, it'll be interesting to see if your new third place driver, Christopher, is able to close the gap at all just past the midpoint of the event. McKennedy comes into this event 3rd in the championship points battle. And a real statistical oddity here at this event at Jennerstown, the drivers who have won in the 2022 NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour are 8th or worse in points. Top 7 drivers in the championship chase coming into this event have not found victory lane in 2022.
Yeah, the real benefactor of the lap traffic the leaders are dealing with right now is Christopher in the number 7. He has closed the gap at least a half a second in the last half dozen laps. The black number 7 is reeling him in going into turn number 1. He's closed in, probably within 10-15 car lengths now off of 2.
And one of the cars going a lap down, we just saw a moment ago as Christopher approaches the 16 of your points leader, Ronnie Silk, who was battling for the lead at the start of this event. So clearly McKennedy and the leader, Ripkema, the class of this field, along with Christopher, now showing some strength. But when you're putting cars a lap down that were starting at the front, like front row starter Patrick Emmerling and early race contender for the lead, Silk, these two machines are clearly dialed in significantly better than much of the competition.
Ronnie Silk, Justin Bonsignor, some of the top stars going down a lap within the first half of the race. And there are a lot of drivers just waiting for the. Here comes McKennedy, though.
McKennedy ready to pounce. Inside, takes a peek, and you've got to wonder now if McKennedy is being told on the radio, somebody's coming for you, as Christopher may be the fastest race car on the Speedway in the 7NY.
He has narrowed it down to about a half dozen car lengths between the second and third. Oh, he gets out of shape off of turn 2 that time. That's going to cost him.
Now McKennedy takes a peek to the inside again. Lap traffic that he could use to his advantage. Christopher thinking the same, but Ripkema has been bulletproof to this point as we work lap number 84.
He's driving a very smart race. His spotter, I'm not sure who his spotter is, but he's doing a great job of telling him where to catch the lap traffic, how to use that lap traffic, and keep that 32 up in front.
Christopher closing in on this battle was much faster than I expected. Much, much faster. So with a car that is clearly turning better lap times, let's see if Christopher chooses to follow these two drivers, wait for the pit stop, wait for the caution flag, or if he wants to continue standing on the loud pedal and climb all the way to the front before the next pit stop.
We're about to find out in the next minute and a half. I mean, these next few laps are going to be a big story in the story of this race, or a big telling of the story of this race. As the 32 hangs on to it, McKennedy right there. Now, here comes Christopher looking down to the inside, wasting no time on McKennedy. Now follows in the tire tracks as they get back into turn number 3.
Starting back in the 8th position, Christopher did not make any noise in the first 40, 50 laps of this event. And now that McKennedy sees him in the mirror, McKennedy pushes the go button.
And then here comes J.B. Fortin to make it a 4-car race in car number 34. He's closed it in. It's 4 drivers all within a second of each other in turn 3.
With 4 drivers under a blanket, we have a new leader for the first time in the Jennerstown Salutes 150. John McKennedy hits the scoring line to officially put the number 79 car out in front. And now he is motored away by 4 or 5 car lengths. He was definitely saving something and didn't bother to challenge the race leader until he was feeling a challenge himself. A smart race car driver, and now with Christopher in second, you've got to wonder if Ripkema is maybe not liking the handling of that machine as well as he did early on.
Well, if you watched about 20 laps ago, his car started to get out of shape going through the corners, and you know he was starting to loosen up and he was fighting it a little bit more. Maybe burned up the tires just a little bit, holding on to the lead, hoping for that caution, hoping to keep the track position, but all of a sudden that starts to slide away here in the last half dozen laps.
J.B. Fortin, who was way behind this battle not so long ago, he has picked up the pace a little, or maybe Ripkema's pace has fallen back to Fortin's pace, but Fortin still remained in the top 5 all day, looking to have a career day here at Jennerstown in the Jennerstown Salutes 150. These 3 drivers, we got Sapienza there, the lap car in the 36 machine, then the 32 of Ripkema. He is your 3rd place driver.
Last time into turn number 3, J.B. Fortin threw it in there. Did it again, this time through 1 and 2. Almost made some contact that time down the back straightaway, but tucks back in behind the 32, going back into turn 3.
And that answers the question, is J.B. Fortin using all that he has? Clearly he is right now, and wants to get by your pole starter for a podium position. Up front, John McKennedy in the 79 and the 7NY, separated now by several car lengths. The battle that we're watching here is more exciting than what's happening up front just at this moment, as McKennedy has pulled away a little bit from Christopher. Fortin now secures that 3rd spot, and he puts a couple of car lengths between himself and your early race leader. boy, Ripken certainly seemed to have things going his way for 40 or 50 laps. And as you mentioned, when that car started to wiggle, there may be no one on this racetrack hoping for an opportunity to make a pit stop as desperately as the man behind the wheel of the 32, Ripken.
And you can see the chunks of tire starting to come off of Ripken's car. He really wants that pit stop, and he wants it now.
Contributing to what's known as the marbles in the upstairs of the Jennerstown Speedway racing surface. Nearly looks like a dirt track cushion up there with pieces of tire gathering toward the outside wall. That's going to make sure that nobody wants to use the highest lane on the Speedway for sure, but we have seen some outside lane passing in this event so far, and if our theory is correct that they're going to really take the gloves off in the final 25 laps, that outside lane should be well rubbered down for 2 lanes of racing closer to the final stages of this race.
The Jennerstown Salutes 150, the second annual event put on by JDV Productions. As keeping an eye on the leader, you have John McKennedy up in front by about 20 car lengths over Christopher. Then it's equal distance back to the 34 of Fortin, and things have strung out just a little bit here in the last 10 laps or so.
And once again, Emmerling, a front row starter in the 07, going another lap down to new leader McKennedy. Boy, it's hard to believe that that machine that was so quick in practice and so quick in qualifying has missed the setup. That is a very, very talented driver who has won on tracks of all sizes. So I'm going to say that it's that new tire and maybe some setup guesswork that can be corrected on a pit stop. But when he's 2 laps down, he will not be a threat to win this event.
And speaking of iconic cars, the 3 run into some problems as well. And drivers missing the setup. I mean, that seems to be the case of the comers and goers so far in this race. Drivers who you would expect to be in the top 5 now going multiple laps down. Not just, running mid-pack, but 2 laps in arrears.
Many-time champion Justin Bonsignor is on that list. Also on that list, current points leader Ronnie Silk, and we see Timmy Solomito. Wow, there is something seriously wrong with that machine as he had trouble entering the turn there. We've got a caution flag for the second time in the night in turns
Kyle?
1 and 2. It is Bonsignor. That is Kyle Bonsignor, who has made some contact with the outside retaining wall and comes to a stop between turns 1 and 2. Kyle in the 22 car now refires that machine. Here we see Justin Bonsignor, who we were just talking about, shockingly lapped in the first half of this event. And now his cousin Kyle bringing out the caution flag as the 22 car limps down the back straightaway. He passes up one opening to the pits and will absolutely need to come down pit lane as he reaches turn number 4.
And this is the moment that everybody's been waiting for. The stop of the race. This is the strategy. It's cars going around in circles. It's speed, but it's also strategy. And who has the quickest pit stop? How much does track position play into effect? Now, Mike, you had said earlier, with the track rubbering up like it is here in the final 50 laps, we're going to see some great 2-lane racing amongst these NASCAR Whelen Modifieds.
And as you say, rubbered up, we take a look at the Kyle Bonsignor machine on pit lane and look at what is stuck to those tires as he drifted all the way up to that no man's lane that is covered with Hoosier rubber. Look at that tire. That's not a defect to the tire. That's rubber that he's picked up on the hot tires going up into the cold marbles near the wall. So those tires are absolutely covered, and that does, as you said, give us an indication that the outside lane has taken on enough rubber to make 2-lane racing for the rest of this event. And now virtually the entire field heads down pit lane. Lutz stays out in the 82 car, but the leaders are headed to pit lane. McKennedy in the 79 and the 7NY. Christopher having difficulty getting to his pit stall as McKennedy overshot his. And positions 1 and 2 backing up. This is going to be a terrible delay. And McKennedy pulls out without even any service.
Now, did these drivers have to stay inside the yellow box?
He pulled into the spot of the 16 car and now has to go around. McKennedy, the race leader, with a critical error. Catalano returns to action. But the race leader, McKennedy, does not get service. Meanwhile, Mike Christopher Jr., the driver who had been running in second position under green flag conditions, he was delayed in getting his pit service, but nevertheless achieved sticker tires, fuel, and an adjustment. And now McKennedy is back down pit lane a second time. As Christopher goes back out, here is the 79 machine returning to pit lane. A disaster for the top two drivers. And now to Jesse Punch on pit lane.
Check, mic check.
McKennedy now getting his service as we wait for Jesse's mic to come up, and now back out goes the driver who had wrestled the lead away from pole starter Tyler Ripkema, had pulled away from second place challenger Mike Christopher Jr., and now McKennedy, just as happened a year ago when he had to pit after having a very fast car. He had perhaps the fastest machine on the Speedway, and a pit lane disaster for McKennedy.
And that has to be so just terribly frustrating for car number 79. But it adds an extra ripple to this event. You can't tell me that he hasn't become a little extra heated in the last 2 minutes or so. So he's going to start out back. He's going to pass some fast modifieds. We've seen some great side-by-side racing tonight, but it's going to be interesting with those brand new tires. We have, let's see, just under 50 laps to go in this race. He certainly will have enough time to get to the front if he's fast enough.
And a chance to look at what happened to Kyle Bonsignor. Oh, here's the replay. Look at this. So there's where he locks up, passes up the pit stall, has to put it in reverse, but you see the board just behind the car. It's the pit of the number 16 machine. So even though he's trying to line up in a pit box, it's not his. Now Christopher, who overshot his pit, has to back up. So while Christopher gets delayed, McKennedy has to leave and come back because he had completely passed his own box, stopping in the Ron Silk spot instead.
Well, Mike, that's interesting. I wasn't aware, originally, I wasn't aware that he was in the 16th pit, and I couldn't figure out why he would just take off and not count his losses, take his lumps, and then start at the back of the pack. But it's because, well, that wasn't his team.
And obviously much more devastating, but still the Christopher Tommy Baldwin racing team also having some difficulties there on pit lane. So, wow, what a change of events here. Unbelievable as we continue to click off laps under the caution flag here.
Any other pit stop or any other scenario would have really been devastating for the number 7, but it looks like he's going to line up third on this restart. So yes, it was not the most advantageous pit stop, but it certainly worked out well for him considering everything.
Now we remember that first caution flag incident, Catalano was involved. Now that puts him at the front of this pack because he's already made one stop. So the newly engaged driver in car number 54, Catalano, lining up alongside the driver who came into the pits in second spot, struggled through that stop, but still gets to go back to green flag racing on the outside of row number 1, and we're green. It is lap 108 of the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Catalano, who has made all 3 starts in recent NASCAR Whelen Modified Series competition here at Jennerstown, holding on to the lead for the moment, using the lowest possible lane.
And he has about, 50 laps more on his tires than Christopher does, and Christopher easily gets around him. Here comes another driver. It's at the 32 on the inside.
Ripkema, who we saw fading. Oh, and McKennedy gets into the wall. McKennedy trying to climb back to the top spot, makes hard contact with the outside wall. You see the white telltale powder on the right sides of those Hoosier Racing tires. That was hard enough contact to have perhaps dislodged the rear end, if not break the rim on that machine.
I thought for a second he was just trying to shake the car out, and it looks like he's still at speed, but still taking about a lap or two to figure out, can I still race this, or is something going to fall off?
Well, it was amazing after making the second stop, the way things shaked out, that he was able to restart that close to the front to begin with.
I think it has a lot to do with the cars, the number of cars on the lead lap.
It does indeed, and boy, just as you said, he might not be in that conservative mindset that you could still be in with this many laps left because of what happened to him. You've got to wonder if that was an emotional error based on how frustrated he must have been with that pit stop situation. We're watching the 79 car continue to fall back now, clearly not handling the way it had been, likely from that contact with the outside wall.
And Bonsignor gets down to the inside. They are not on the same lap, so that is in fourth position. But still, McKennedy scored in fifth right now, right in front of car number 64.
And up front, meanwhile, the 7NY machine of Mike Christopher Jr. out in front with Ripkema in second. And we know Ripkema knew how to handle that car the first 40 or 50 laps. If that team setup caused him to struggle in the later stages, well, we're going to be at about the point at the end of this race where that tire wear would be equal to when he started to fall back, and there's contact.
Yeah, there's racing with respect, too. He could have really drilled the number 7, but didn't. Rolled out of the throttle, and Ripkema continues to chase Christopher as they work their way off of 2. He's certainly faster than the number 7 at this juncture of the race.
Here we see the 58 of Eric Goodale, who was making some outstanding moves after his early pit stop. Back up front now with the 7NY, Mike Christopher Jr. His father was a competitor in the NASCAR Busch North Series, a name that goes back to the 1980s, as well as in modified competition. And his uncle Teddy Christopher, the late great Hall of Famer, who was many times victorious in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour and in the NASCAR Busch North Series.
Yeah, the last names Christopher and Baldwin teaming up for this race and really proven to be a successful formula. I thought that he might lose the lead to Ripkema, but it has certainly started to shake out where he stays about 2 or 3 car lengths ahead of him as we get about a half dozen to a dozen green flag laps into this run.
J.B. Fortin in the 34 car.
Slides up the racetrack that time.
And he has pulled away from the Catalano machine. 77 of Max McLaughlin. We haven't talked much about him today, but Mad Max in the 77 car told me earlier today he's going to race about 90% dirt races this season. And only a handful of starts in that Mike Curb car, but look at the change for the lead. Ripkema in the 32 down the backstretch takes the position from Christopher Jr. in the 7NY.
What I thought was interesting is that he was the chaser, or he was the chasee for a good portion of this race. So when he is certainly on the offense, much more aggressive, gets the lead back, but it might be short-lived. Christopher's right there, and they go after it into turn 3.
Now we saw Ripkema just make some light rear contact with Christopher and then let him make a save. So let's see if that polite racing is returned. Now, once we get to the final stages of this race, I would not expect to see anything polite between these two competitors. But with yet 30 laps to go, still a modified weekly feature distance left in this event, I would think things are going to be a little bit calm for a while. So we'll take a look at this battle between Mad Max McLaughlin in the 77 and J.B. Fortin in the 34. Fortin having an outstanding run, by far his best run here at Jennerstown. And trying to hold on. Look at the 77 all the way down to the grass to make the pass. A little bit of Nerf bar shove on Fortin, but Max McLaughlin takes the spot. His father, many times a competitor here at Jennerstown Speedway, Magic Shoes Mike McLaughlin. And now look at this young driver in the Curb Racing 77, gaining a position here in the top 5.
We continue to see the health of the NASCAR Whelen Modified division really vaulting into the future with a nod to the past. You have Christopher, you have McLaughlin, last names who have been in this division for decades, and Baldwin, the Christopher car is not done.
Ripkema now holding off the 7NY, and boy, Christopher was right on that rear bumper just a moment ago.
Yeah, if you feel engaged watching this on Flow Racing, the fans in the stands have been on their feet watching 2 battles. The one you see on your screen right now, and then now the battle that's on your screen as the battle for the lead. Fans are standing up and going nuts for these drivers.
Now the 51 of Bonsignor, he is a couple of laps down, although able to keep pace right now with Max McLaughlin in the 77 car. You know, it seems like we've talked a lot about the history of Plume cars tonight. Well, seeing that Mike Curb Racing logo on the rear quarter of McLaughlin's car, you know, Curb Racing has been responsible for Indianapolis 500 victories time and time again. NASCAR victories. Curb Racing was the owner of the number 43 that Richard Petty took to his 200th victory, and now Max McLaughlin sitting in a Curb Racing entry. He began a relationship with the curbs back in his USAC midget racing days before climbing up to this level of NASCAR racing and making some great moves here later in this event.
Even Ron Bouchard in the mid-'80s, too, with that team.
Exactly right. So lots of history on Blue Modifieds here, and now about to make history. The Jennerstown Salutes 150 entering the final stages, and with lap traffic to go around.
We might see a different kind of salute between these two drivers.
Look at that rear bumper contact there. That's a salute. You're exactly right. Great job by Ripkema holding on to it. And I think Ripkema just had to back off a little for the lap car. Maybe Christopher wasn't expecting that, but it has certainly bent up the front bumper on the 7NY car, so that contact a little bit harder. Now, did he blame Ripkema for backing off and trying to create that contact? Is Ripkema concerned that there will be more contact? Lap 127, and we're about to that point where everybody has to show exactly what they have. Ripkema, pole starter, faded dramatically in the middle stages of this event, returns from the pit stop with what may be the right setup as he is holding the lead over Christopher in the 7NY, who started back in 8th position in this event.
And a little bit out of your screen, too, you see Justin Bonsignor really coming to speed, too. And it wouldn't be something if they made the pit stop, corrected everything they needed to, and finally hit the setup the way they needed to. But it was just that that initial run that threw them off so much.
Can't recover from a lap or two down, certainly at this stage of the race, but using that last lap car, Ripkema got a 4 or 5 car length advantage that he has not had for several laps. Now we'll see how quickly Christopher can make up that gap. Christopher being one of the youngest drivers in this field, I can't imagine that he is saving it for the end. I would think a driver of his age with the opportunity to possibly take the lead, he is going to be going for it at this moment right here.
You ever try to do a 5K with a 19-year-old? Right? Exactly. You might win that 5K, but not in the first K.
That's exactly the way to look at this battle for the lead in the Jennerstown Salutes 150. 2 cars have pulled away from the rest of the competition, and they are bumper to bumper entering turn number 2. Baldwin continues to play bumper tag with Ripkema. It's going to be a thrilling finish as 2 drivers have separated themselves. McKennedy continues to fall back with that 79 car and some damage from wall contact after he seemed to be the fastest car in the middle stages of the race.
And what a night for John McKennedy and what could have been as he closes in on the top 2 drivers. As you mentioned, Mike, just as fast as these drivers, but does he try to unlap himself? What kind of gentleman's agreement do these drivers have? How much does he mix it up?
Mixing it up is the exact term for what we're watching here in the battle for the lead. Laps are clicking away. It's lap 136 of 150 and the 32 of Tyler Ripkema holding on to a lead, but each and every lap, young Mike Christopher Jr. is able to knock on the rear bumper.
Now, in the first, well, here we go, side-by-side battle, and Christopher's going after him.
An outside attempt for the, look at Ripkema changes grooves and forces him way up the banking.
Do you remember when Kyle Bonsignor got into the upper groove and had all the rubber on his tires as a result of just those 2 corners? Will the same thing happen to Christopher as a result?
And now politeness will be thrown out the window as Ripkema did everything he could to defend that spot. A bold outside move last time, and now an inside move for Christopher.
Tire tracks on the bottom of the yellow line, and he makes the clean pass off of turn number 2. New leader as they head to turn 3.
The legendary Tommy Baldwin Racing Team with a new young driver at the wheel. Mike Christopher Jr. takes the lead with 10 laps remaining in the Jennerstown Salutes 150.
It was great to see the fans so invested in that battle when Christopher took the lead. Many of them stood up and didn't throw their hats, but certainly saluted in the Jennerstown Salutes 150.
No lap traffic will be faced by the leaders to the finish of this event. So Ripkema, who had the fastest car early, faded in the middle, regained the lead, is starting to fade once again. and late race drama here as Christopher makes a bold outside attempt, gets the door shut on him, and rallies right back to the inside for the point position.
Now, when we started this green flag run, Mike, you made an excellent point of, okay, so he's good for about 30 to 40 laps, but will there be a sharp fall off like there was in the last run? And that's what we've learned tonight, is that Ripkema, great for 30 or 40 laps, but you noticed in the first run, McKennedy put in the pressure for about 10 laps, and then once his tires went, he fell off big time.
And Tommy Baldwin Racing perhaps dialing up exactly the right combination for this compound of Hoosier Racing tire that's brand new to this track this season. And young Christopher, with drivers who have started 3 events at this racetrack in recent seasons, sees the place for the first time and uses 2 separate grooves of this facility to challenge for the lead, and he is out in front all by himself.
He did it on consecutive laps. He was up in groove number 3. Part of that was the lap traffic that was on the inside, but he went up into groove 3, took on that loose rubber, and then threw it down into turn number 1 on the very next lap to make that bold move. That's I don't think that's a move that someone in their 40s is going to make.
That's a very good point. And you can't blame Ripkema now for that move a couple lanes up to defend the lead. Ripkema had to know that his car was fading once again. And that was his last-ditch attempt to thwart the advances of Christopher. You got to hand it to him for trying everything that he could. He zoomed up a couple of lanes. Everybody stayed pointed the right direction. And Christopher has the car as we enter the closing stage.
The 7 New York car off of turn number 2 continues to lead. This one pulls ahead now by, well, I thought for a second Rickham is still second, a long way back to Fortin. I was mixed up by the numbers there. I thought Fortin had gotten by, but certainly not the case. They're about even as they enter turn number 3 in that black number 7.
Through the 1980s and 1990s, here at the Jennerstown Speedway Complex, Tiger Tom Baldwin steered the black number 7 NY around this speedway, thrilling the fans from that era of modified racing. Now a team owned by his son, Tommy Baldwin Racing, takes the white flag, and in his first ever visit to Jennerstown Speedway, wearing the yellow rookie stripe clearly seen on the back bumper of this legendary machine, the final turns for a first-time winner in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Mike Christopher Jr. wins the Jennerstown Salutes 150. Tyler Ripkema comes home with a second-place finish. J.B. Fortin with a podium run here, an excellent run.
And look at the jubilation of that crowd, of that crew. Winning doesn't get old. Your champion for 2022 in the Jennerstown Salutes race of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Wow, what a race, and what a great heads-up driving all the way through for Christopher.
You know, several times the Tommy Baldwin Racing 7 NY has been adorned in white. They've tried some new sponsors and color schemes, and here where so many fans remember Tiger Tom Baldwin, the black 7 NY that is reminiscent of my childhood watching the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour here at Jennerstown, will roll to victory lane for the first time for this team at this facility, and the first time for this young driver.
Is the 82 on the helmet too?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable that a driver in this situation could overcome, I'm not going to say it's an obstacle, I'm going to say overcome a many-time winner in Tyler Ripkema to find himself in this situation.
Mike, look at those tires.
Unbelievable rubber on the tires, and he was able to make a fantastic save in that outside lane to continue to battle and then eventually make the inside lane pass. And I think you called attention to it earlier. 2 great modified families coming together, Baldwin and Christopher, combining for a memorable win on Memorial Day weekend in the second running of the Jennerstown Salutes 150. As we get ready for a victory lane celebration for the ages.
Second time in 1 week for these guys. They did it on Sunday at Lee USA Speedway with Doug Kobe, and then you get in that race car, and the last guy that was sitting in it won. What are you going to do? And you're young Mike Christopher.
He has answered all of the questions. When you get the call to step into a legendary car like this, people are naturally going to ask, do you deserve the opportunity? And certainly we can see that not only did he deserve the opportunity, but the man holding the steering wheel really won this race with those moves to maintain control of the car.
You can't
and
say
continue
it was
the fight with Ripkema.
Yeah, you can't say it was a great pit stop. That's for sure.
That's
I mean, because
exactly
he had
right.
to drive that car back to the front, outside, inside, making moves that he probably won't make in 20 years.
A young driver in victory lane, and now for all the excitement, we throw it to victory lane and Jesse Punch.
Mike Christopher Jr., the 23-year-old from Connecticut, very first Whelen Modified Tour win. Describe your emotions right now.
Man, I don't know. I'm real happy. I'm real proud of what Tommy Baldwin has done this year, and obviously Doug's been in the car the past 2 races, and he won. And I had this scheduled for running this race, and then Doug went to 2 races, and I guess I had a lot of shoes to fill. But man, I can't give it up enough to this team. My spotter Brian. I got to thank Mohawk Northeast, the Florida Connection, everyone that helps out in this car, but especially Tommy Baldwin, man. I've had a lot of fun with him over the years, and it's just getting better. I wish my dad was here. I wish my girlfriend was here, but, you know, they stayed home. This is a long ways away from home, but this is going to make the 7-hour drive a lot better.
Mike, this is just your 3rd modified start, and here you are in victory lane. What kind of a statement do you think you're making to the rest of the racing world here early on in your career?
I don't know. I hope something good. I've been racing modifieds for a long time. You know, mostly SKs up at Stafford, but Tommy gave me an opportunity to run the open cars, and we've expanded to not only Stafford, Thompson, but we've gone out to Lake Erie and my dreaded Riverhead, and this is our first time coming here, so I can't be any happier than to park in the victory lane.
Well, congratulations, Mike. Go celebrate the win. Enjoy it.
All right, thank you.
That's Mike Christopher Jr., his very first Tour modified win.
Now, for the fans listening to that interview who are NASCAR Whelen Tour fans, and how about that, a handshake with Ripkema? So we talked about maybe the polite driving would go away, but they're certainly very cordial with one another here in the victory lane celebration.
It's just good Saturday night short track racing. You know, they certainly were aggressive, but it's the kind of aggression that these fans paid their hard-earned money for. You guys watched on Flow Racing as well, and you know, it's the type of racing where, yeah, you're going to lean on the person, but you're not going to flat dump that person and take the person out. Just good heads-up driving between those 2 drivers. And how about J.B. Fortin finishing in 3rd?
J.B. Fortin with an excellent podium finish here. This is I am very, very impressed by what he has done here tonight. Even from the start, you know, he was making moves early on. I think he may have been one of the most consistent drivers throughout this entire event. He started a little further back, he advanced a little, and now comes home with a podium position. I think he was maybe consistent. We saw Ripkema go way out to the front and then fade back a little bit, whereas the 34 machine of Fortin stayed relatively consistent. And making a phone call back home to let someone close to him know that he is a winner of the Jennerstown Salutes 150. As we get set for a presentation, and now the Edmondson family, the Grand Marshals from the beginning of this event who gave the command to fire engines, will make a very, very special presentation here on this Memorial Day weekend for the Jennerstown Salutes 150.
Thank you. Yeah!
Look at that trophy, Mike.
Tommy Baldwin, Mike Christopher Jr., the Edmondson family there to present such a special trophy. Many of these drivers have a case full of trophies with plastic gold modifieds on the top, but I can't imagine there's a more meaningful addition to any trophy case than that hardware from this Jennerstown Salutes 150. And you mentioned on the parade lap that the fans took 1 parade lap to salute these competitors, but we have taken an entire day and evening to salute the true heroes of our culture, those who have paid the ultimate price for us to enjoy our freedoms. That's what this race is really all about, and it comes back to hit home with that point as the Edmondson family is there to hand out those very, very unique trophies.
The fans were on their feet, and we had a lot of them here tonight. This race was for the people who weren't in the stands, the people who gave the ultimate sacrifice, as you mentioned, Mike, to allow for this to happen tonight, and certainly a very emotional night.
And now we head back to the victory lane area where Jesse Punch is with our second place finisher.
Tyler Okuma, stellar run here today, just fell short of your first win. Describe your emotions hitting out of the car.
I mean, it's hard to be mad about this, you know. Our second practice, set it on the pole for the feature, and then lead over 100 laps, and we were just so tight that last run. There was just, I held him off as long as I could. I know he was getting better runs off the corner, and I just couldn't make it happen. It was just so tight. So, you know, it's really hard to be mad about that, you know. It's a great day for us. We led a ton of laps, you know, got a good notebook going again for here, and a really solid finish.
That's Tyler Okuma, your pole position and second place finisher today.
Ripka mentioning that he was, I should say, mentioning that falling short of his first win. Now, he has been a winner repeatedly in the Race of Champions Modified Tour. And our race winner tonight, Mike Christopher Jr., mentioned SK Modified. So for the fans here in this part of the country that don't get to see that form of racing, SK Modifieds are a limited modified, same chassis, relatively the same tires, but lower horsepower engine for young drivers to launch their career. Modifieds are a little bit more budget friendly to race on a weekly basis at tracks in New York and New Jersey and even a couple in eastern Pennsylvania. So the SK Modifieds and the Race of Champions Tour represented here on the podium, but the first win in the NASCAR Whelen Tour is a special occasion, and we're watching a very young driver celebrate exactly that tonight.
And become a champion, too. The Jennerstown Salutes 150 is a race, but there's a champion, and it's Mike Christopher.
And now back down to the front straightaway, and Jesse Punch with our third place finisher.
Podium finish for J.B. Forden. J.B., how do you describe your run here tonight?
We had a stout car from the beginning. I got to thank my crew, Kenny Lechner, my crew chief. He just killed it on this one. On that long green flag run, the car was coming to me. I thought we were going to have the win here. We just made a bad adjustment on the pit stop. But can't thank my team enough. This is a killer car. All my family at home watching. Third place finish, first podium for me. Woo! Yeah, it's been a long way coming. At Lee, we had a pretty good car. I think we could have won there, but a couple guys need a little more respect. Like this tonight, we had plenty of respect up front, and it shows. I can't thank my sponsors, Peerless Spoilers, Red Camel Racing, John Screw Removal, John's Fuel Oil, Robert Yates Racing, Northeast IT, Golden Jalapenos, and I think that's it. But yeah, just stout run and happy for this team. Finally broke into the top three.
Career best finish for J.B. Forden.
The Jennerstown Salutes 150 with an upset winner, 3 podium finishers that you couldn't have predicted, an outstanding night of racing, and the proper way to salute all of our armed forces service members, both with us and gone before us, from the Jennerstown Speedway.